Yeah, I mean, it was as a part of my evening viewing with my mum and dad. I remember that. I'd sit on the floor, watch the TV, Star Trek would come on. The music, I would hear the music in my bedroom and run in. Yeah, I definitely, I wouldn't say I was a Trekkie or a Trekker, but I would definitely say I loved Star Trek. And then I think the films, right, especially the Abraham JJ's films, have just reinvented it in a way that just makes it so cool. And I love what I loved about not only my film, our film, but the other two is that there's a sense of humour to it, and it knows what it is. And I think the cast is incredible. Chris Pine, Zoe, everyone. There's just like Zach. They're really, really good actors that bring a real life and vitality to these well-known characters. So yeah, I feel like I definitely can say Star Trek is one of my shows that influenced me as a kid watching TV. Well, it's interesting. I was saying earlier that I think Star Trek was probably the one of the first diverse, to use a buzzword, diverse shows on TV. This is a show where you had a Scot and a black man, a black woman, and you had all this sort of multicultural cast members in lead positions. It was great. Everyone could sort of relate to someone there. But also, like you said, the idea of the Federation and the civilizations that populate the universe, the Enterprise travel into each one of them. My character is a new character to the Star Trek. And you realise why eventually in the film. But, with him being a new character came a license to really challenge what the Federation was about. Justin and I spoke about that a lot. And we thought, oh my God, what are the Star Trek fans going to think? Because this guy is absolutely walking in here and unpicking the fabric of what the show's about. For me, that was a really interesting concept for me. I think there's, not to be corny, but there's some parallels when you look at modern day society, and there are people that do not want the world to be as diverse and cool as we all enjoy it, right? And I think Karl has that sort of mindset from the onset. When you see him, you go, this man, it's beyond evil. This is someone that does not want to be a part of the group and doesn't feel like there needs to be a group. And there's a deeper storyline that sort of emerges. But Justin and I, we found the concept fascinating, and Simon Pegg and I, sort of worked hard on the dialogue and what he has to say and what he shouldn't say. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think and I definitely was nervous about how number one, I had to follow the footsteps of Benedict Cumberbatch, who I thought was incredible, an incredible storyline. But just to be a part of that legacy, you have to bring it. You're the main villain in Star Trek. You better be scary. Do you know what I mean? And I definitely thought about that. I was slightly intimidated by what the fans might think, and I'm hoping that they find my character engaging as I found him to play. I mean, I'd never made a film where I had, full body, full head prosthetics, so this was a new area for me. I actually found it quite liberating because it was sort of like puppetry. Here I am with this massive head. I just sit there and be still and could lots of energy come from my character. We discussed that in the process of what he looked like, and there were various stages of my character that happen as well, which is interesting as well. And I remember just talking to Justin about that, and how do we play that so it feels authentic, feels real, feels menacing, and engaging, and the I came to it where they had designed the character, but I sort of offered my 2 cents to sort of make him, sort of compatible to me and what I want to do with the voice and the movement. It was a really enjoyable process. I mean, I'm claustrophobic, so this was like a bit of a tough one to wear every single day for 18 hours or whatnot. But like I said, I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the actual puppetry of it all. I mean, it's the reason I got. Robert De Niro was a big influence in my early career, and I remember looking at him saying that you can't recognise him from one role to the other, and that sort of that's changed. Some actors tend to play versions of themselves or versions of the same character in different films. And, I made a choice very early on that I don't ever want to repeat. I want to try and do something very different every single time. Obviously, that's, a blessing if you can do that, because it's not always the case. But I've been very lucky to be able to sort of have, in both film and TV, a varied sort of palette of characters. It's important because I want to take the audience on a challenging journey. I want them to look at me in an interview and go, oh, that's not him. That's not him. I mean, I find that I met actors that I've gone, wow, I did not think you were like that. And that to me is your job, your job well done.